In first place, I would like to thank you for the interest you have shown in this video tutorial. HCC-Hotel Cost Control, with myself as a lead man, has the main principle to provide theoretical models in order to better the management in the lodging and hospitality industry, training users so they can have at their hands practical management tools at a low cost, as it avoids knowledge exclusivity and makes them public and accessible to everybody. It has to be mentioned that these theoretical models only come to light once they have been put into use in the industry, and once reviewed the relation there is between the cost of its implementation, measured by the time dedicated, and the result obtained, measured by the evolution of key management radios of each area. In the case of MICE and Banquets Automate Quotation, based on the HCC model, during these past years I have carried out its implementation in 5 hotels, both national and international. Therefore, its effectiveness has been trialed in various scenarios, always obtaining improvement in the process and management timing, as also in the simplicity of distributing the events offered and at the same time the final customer's acceptance. If you pay attention to the elaboration of the MICE and Banquets Automate Quotation, surely you will have immediate benefits in the economical results of your organization, by quoting at all time based on precise data and in accordance with each petition, and also in the level of detailed information obtained, which will help saving time with complex process, and at the same time it will allow customers to act with total liberty and adapt the available offer to his necessities. Regarding its maintenance, once its implementation has been carried out, you only need to adapt rates and a catalog of articles offered to clients, as the structure of the model is prepared to bear these changes. Without further ado, we start with the video tutorial. This course divides itself in 6 modules or chapters, in which the necessary information is present for a successful implementation. We will start with a short introduction of the current situation of the system of management and quotations of MICE and Banquets, as also its peculiarities and limitations. The rest of modules will be explained in an organized way and divided in consecutive chapters, where we put into practice the HCC model of Automate Quotation for MICE and Banquets, in order that, when this video tutorial comes to an end, you will be able to put into practice the acquired knowledge, adapting the spreadsheet attached, or creating a new more personalized spreadsheet, or even developing a specific application for this course. Module 1. Introduction to the current quotation system. Nowadays, in general, the process of contracting an event for a hotel or a restaurant business experiments different stages, which involve both the client and the sales representative in a direct relation, as also the executive staff in order to adapt the commercial offer to the client's changing petitions. The relation starts with a visit in person of the client, during which he is shown the function rooms in offer and the different possibilities of layout, capacity, and the compound offer of a gastronomical menu, coffee break, equipment for meetings, etc. When I refer to compound offer, I refer to the elaborated and quote menus, which shows our gastronomical offer available as a whole, but it is not possible to customize it per client. For example, if the customer wants a course from one menu and another course from a different menu. The second step is the client's analysis of the information, which generally takes a few days, as he has to compare the offers of all the companies he has visited. Finally, if we have convinced him, he will visit the hotel once again to book the function room for the date in question, and the details of the event remain pending. These details will be arranged in steps 4 and 5, which will be repeated as many times as the client may need to set a fixed quotation which is in accordance to what he pretends to offer to his guests, taking into account that any alteration on this fixed offer implies that the executive has to invest time to give a new quote for this new offer, taking into consideration the changes requested by the client. For example, we have menu 1 with soup and meat, and its price is 100, and menu 2 with salad and fish, which cost 80. The client wants soup and fish. Therefore, the sales representative will get in contact with the F&B executive, so he indicates the price of the new menu. The client will have to await the reply of the salesperson who is pending on the executive's reply, which may take 1 minute, 10, 30, or will have to postpone it to a future phone call or email. With the entire offer prepared and quote, and both parties in agreement, the next stage is to formalize it with a contract, which implies the elaboration of the work schedule of the departments involved and the process of liquidation of the event on behalf of the client. It can be distributed in different dates, for example, payment of initial deposit, a percentage of the time 30 days before the event, and the settlement of the rest before the celebration of the event. The final steps are the celebration of the event and the later meeting with the client to obtain feedback on the service offered. So what does this generalized process imply? Too much dedication on behalf of the client, who has to wait for the sales representative to inform him regarding the request changes on the initial offer present, which means he has to visit and call the hotel in various occasions. Too much dedication from the contracting department for an event, because he has to attend the client in person in various occasions to meet the client's necessities. Too much dedication on behalf of the F&B executive. For each event, he has to revise the quotation of the commercial offer based on the changes made on the initial offer present. So in conclusion, this quotation process of events turns into a difficult and boring chore. In some occasions, it may lead to confrontations with the client and to the closure of the contractual relation, due to disagreements or even problems due to services expected by the client and not provided. And what can the HCC model offer? The HCC model creates the basis to elaborate an IT system, that is, a spreadsheet or in any development platform, capable of being used by the own client, and so he is in charge of the quotation in real time, as of the elaboration of the work schedule destined to the departments that make possible the execution of the event. Therefore, it reduces the steps in the process to an initial visit to the hotel of the client, during which the offer of the function rooms is presented and he is showed how the program works. The client does as many changes as he likes on the total offer present in his own personal space, until he obtains a final service in accordance to his financial expectations. The next step will be to send an email or visit the hotel to confirm the offer and make payment for the deposit to book the function room for the event. And finally, settlement of the total cost of the event according to the contract, celebration of the event, and meeting to obtain the client's feedback on the service received. In this process, we liberate the client from having to constantly call or visit the hotel. We liberate the contracting department from receiving continuous visits for the same event, and we also release the F&B executive from having to constantly modify the confirmed offer present according to the new and changeable client's request. As it is an automatic system, the work schedules for the departments is also produced, in accordance to what the client has created and signed. There is no margin for error or misunderstanding of the request event and the final service given. In addition, the program can be available to clients or local business in the website itself or by the distribution of physical devices, such as CDs or DVDs, in order that the clients that are familiar with the hotel and wish to celebrate an event can avoid having visited the hotel in the initial stages, as they already have in their hands a formal and valid offer. Therefore, they go on to the stage of blocking the room and formalize it with the contract of the service. That is, it is a very useful device to distribute our MICE and banquets offer, which does not have unidirectional nature. It doesn't base its content on general information from business to client, but it sends them a process that allows them to establish a contractual relation with our business at any time. Module 2. Contracts Details. In this first section, we need to configure the template that requests the client to broaden the information on these contact details and regarding the event that is out to be celebrated. In the first section, we will request essential contact details in order to locate him or even open an internal record of the client. As this information will be automatically used for the signature of the contract, we ought to obtain as much information as possible, so that the collaboration agreement has all the necessary information. Therefore, information such as the identity card, contracting company, if pertinent, and information of the said, these are key for future relations with them. The second section needs to inform us when will the event take place, so we can confirm the availability of the requested function room at the time of receiving the service request. In the third section, the client has to indicate what type of event he is organizing, how many people will attend, distinguishing adults from children, also stating what time will the event start and the estimate time the room will be used for each event. The following part has to do with the election of function rooms for the celebration of the event or events set previously, but a system that allows the client to indicate which function room or rooms he wants is out to be established. Depending on the attendance, the request events will be able to take place. For example, the function rooms assignation system will work in accordance to the capacity of the said for each type of event, which will be available to the client, but we will discuss this matter in a different module. If a client wants to celebrate a gathering for 40 adults and then wants to organize a coffee break for 100 packs in total, the system will inform that the function room YYY is at his disposal for both activities that are going to take place, or, if he prefers, he can change the coffee break to be held in rooms XXX, YYY, or BBB, leaving as meeting room function rooms YYY or ZZ. Evidently, each room reservation will incur a charge. It will be down to the client if he wants to book just the one function room for the entire event or independent rooms for each contracted event, but we will analyze this soon. For this example, in the end, the client selects the XXX function room for the coffee break and function room YYY for the meeting. Finally, we need to ask the client to inform us regarding the layout that he wishes for each selected room. It will be in accordance to the event that he wants to contract in each case, evidently. For this example, the client wants the school layout for function room YYY and the cocktail layout for function room XXX, where the coffee break will take place. And with this information, we know who the client is, when he wants to celebrate the event, what type of event, at what time, its duration, in which function room, and with what type of layout. Too much information for such little work from the client, don't you think? Module 3. Services on offer. In this section, the client has to tell us what he wants us to offer in each request event. Next, we go through the entire offer we have prepared for the different types of event. Logically, it will be in accordance to each type of company. The cells highlighted in green are the ones we will use to establish the cost of what is consumed in each case. In the example CB1, the coffee, juice and water cost 0.49 per person. This does not include the service provided, nor other costs such as electricity, water, etc. These green cells, logically, are not visible to the client, but we use them to establish what benefit we want to obtain from each cell, which multiplied by the cost, it will calculate as the unitary sales price. On the sheet attached, a benefit margin of 30% of the cost is established, which is incurred in each article. Coming back to the example, if he has requested coffee break 1, he ought to indicate this by marking it with an X. The units go according to what the client has requested in the section we have seen in the previous module, adding both adults and children, which gives a result of 100 attendees. The total sale price will be the result of multiplying the unitary sale price times the units request for each article, but it will only be calculated if the client places an X on the article wanted. If not, we will not serve it, and in consequence, logically, we shall not charge him for it. This process is identical for the rest of the offers for each type of event. This is for the coffee break 2, for the lunch, for the evening meal, until we reach the equipment of the room, layout and service section, which have other peculiarities and calculation which we will see next. Function rooms equipment. In this case, the unitary cost is not calculated by the number of clients that will attend the meeting, as it has a fixed cost per meeting. So, in the case of the projector, the unitary cost is 150. The unitary sales price will be the result of applying the benefit we wish to obtain by the unitary cost, but taking into account that this unitary cost will increase depending on the number of units requested by the client. With this example, it will be easier to understand it. If a client requests a projector, this has a unitary cost of 150. By marking 1 in the units and an X in projector, the system will indicate him that it will cost him 195. If in addition he wishes a translator, which has a cost of 300 for us, by marking it with an X, it will indicate him that it has a sale price of 390. If he wants 2 projectors, as the units have been altered to 2, the system will tell him that the total sale price is 390, in this case in particular. But for this example, we only mark 1 projector and 1 translator service. Layout and service of the function room. This is the most complex section of the HCC model, due to the variables that need to be taken into account for its design. And this is where we risk that everything turns out okay. Until now, we have been calculating the article's cost based on the client's consumption, without taking into consideration what the serving cost us, that is, the staff that we need to employ, how much the electricity cost, the cleaning and the room's layout, etc. Those are the variables that need to be applied in this section for the unitary cost calculation, which will serve us to establish a final price for the function room regardless the extras the customer has marked up to now. Its aim is to obtain an equitable benefit per room regardless if the service is more or less complex, this is, if it is only a meeting or if it includes a coffee break, lunch, free bar, etc. Therefore, for its calculation, we need to take into account a fixed cost variable, as also a variable's cost variable which will be based on the attendance of each event. Fixed cost calculation. The function room XXX, due to its peculiarities, its size, equipment, electricity consumption, material, etc., it costs us to clean it and set up to the layout for each event 250. Calculation which we do based on the hours worked, estimate electricity consumption during the work hours, equipment, etc. Whereas function room YYY only costs 150. To reach these results, we need to carry out a study of each function rooms in order to establish the cost of preparing the room for the service, also including the cost of leaving it clean once the service has finished. Evidently, each function rooms in each hotel will have its own peculiarities. This is why a customized study, which implies simple calculations, needs to be carried out. But remember, to establish an upward cost will mean that the client will pay more for the function room, and we incur the risk of our prices being out of the market. Variable cost calculation. In this case, we will analyze the personnel's cost in order to give service to each event. For this, we need to know, on the one hand, how much an employee costs us per hour in average, and how many clients can he serve based on the type of event, to be able to assign the variable. This way, for function room XXX, we have the following information. Average cost per employee per hour, 32. Clients served per employee on coffee break layout, 15. Therefore, if the client requests function room XXX to celebrate a coffee break for 100 persons during 2 hours, the cost calculation for the hotel will be the following. Fixed cost for the layout of the function room, 250. And the calculation of variable cost is 100 customers divided between 15 customers served per employee. So we need 6.7 employees. And now multiplying 6.7 employees times 32, that is the average cost per employee per hour, times 2 hours of service, variable cost of 426.67. So the layout and coffee break service cost in function room XXX 250 fixed cost plus 426.67 variable cost. Total amount 676.67. The sale price including the 30% of benefit 879.67. On the other hand, the calculation of variables for function room YYY are as follows. Cost per employee per hour, 32. Clients served per employee per meeting, 30. Therefore, if the client requests function room YYY to celebrate a meeting for 40 people, the cost calculation for the hotel will be as follows. Fixed cost of 150 and variable cost for 40 customers divide between 30 customers served per employee, we need 1.33 employees. Now multiplying 1.33 employees times 32, that is the cost per employee per hour, times 4 hours of service, the variable cost will be 170.67. The layout and meeting service cost in function room YYY 150 fixed cost plus 170.67 variable cost. Total amount 320.67. Sell price, including the 30% of benefit, will be 416.87. The quotation of services based on the selection is the total sum of the selected coffee break, price of the projector, price of the translator, and price of the layout of rooms XXX and YYY. The sheet attached includes calculations for all variables possible in each function room. That is, the calculation of variables for all the different services in each function room, which is the key to prepare one sound calculation. Module 4. Services Summary and Work Schedule. In this section, and taking advantage of the information provided by the client in the previous two modules, we only need to compile the information to create a summary of all the services requests, which we will use as work schedule for the departments involved in the execution of the event. The important information for all the recipients of the report are the following: date of the event, contractor's detail, events details like function room, layout, starting time, duration of service, adults and children, etc. Details of the service with the extras the client has requested for each event. Other remarked fields, in which both the client and the sales representative can include exceptions or important observations, such as special needs for certain guests that can have an impact on the layout of the service offered. This report, on the one hand, will be attached to the contract of the service as detailed appendix of the service request by the client, and on the other hand, it will have to be signed by each head of department as acknowledgement of the services to be carried out for this event. In this example that we continue explaining, we see how the necessary information is identified to carry out the coffee break in function room XXX for 100 attendees, adding a projector and some special needs for elderly attendees. Module 5. Solemnization of the contract. As in the previous case, this section will be complete automatically with the basic information provided by the client, and is used as contract of services and as agreement for the liquidation of the mentioned, based on the policy of each hotel. The details of each part, business and client, are listed as also specific clauses of the business, a formal estimate based on the client's request, and deadlines for payment for the event. This contract has to be attached to the summary of services, duly signed, as the agreement acquired by the company to provide the request service to the client at the agreed price. As the content of the sale is the same as what the client has completed, there will be no margin for misunderstandings, nor for contract service not served. Therefore, it will be easy to locate the party responsible of the breach of contract. Evidently, the clauses and method of payment policy of the events correspond to each company, being this sheet a common example for all of them. Module 6. Instructions and Client's Information. It is true that these two sections are the first in the sheet attached to the video tutorial, and I have left them until the end of the explanation as they are more useful to expand on the client's information rather than for the implementation of the HCC model. There is a specific section named Instructions, in which we need to inform the client how to complete the file, to provide him additional support to the already given at the time of handing over the program during the first meeting. There ought to be simple notes which explain very clearly how the application works, as also the process to follow to contract the event. The second sheet, named Function Rooms Detail, will be the one used by each company to establish the maximum occupations capacity per type of event and function room. Although they are configured in the contract details section, they serve as prior information to the client. On the other hand, the company should show a simple distribution plan of each function room, so that the client is aware of the alternative rooms available and he can visualize the final services of the event. Finally, a photographic report should also be included with the layout of each type of room, and to help the client to get an idea of the final service contract. Much more information can be added according to each business choice. Finally, I only wish that this video tutorial has been clear and satisfactory. Likewise, I hope that you will soon put it into practice and wish it will report you great satisfaction and allow you to control with greater precision this business area, as it has done with me throughout my practical experience with it. Kind regards, and don't forget to consult our training program for new video tutorials or online courses by subscribing to our newsletter in order to be updated on all our innovations.